You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode number 205.1. Can you believe we're already at 205.1? Our daily update on high school, college, and professional sports news in Central Indiana, with a little bit of major national sports news, anything that may be of interest to Central Indiana sports fans.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you've chosen to listen to the Central Indiana Sports Report. We thank you so much for making us a little part of your day. Today is March 15th, 2025.
Beware the Ides of March.
It's a Saturday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana sports, coming to you today from headquarters in Jeffersonville. That, of course, was producer Susie, and she is right here. She's about to take over the Daily Report. Or as she says, she's about to do a report. Coming up, we, we are so professional. Coming up, we had Pacers, Purdue's men, and Ball State's women in action Friday. Indiana Wesleyan's men and women played the first round of the NAIA tournament in Marion on Friday. Plus, we have local college and softball results and more. And we look ahead to a big Friday. But first, if you haven't already, please go subscribe to our YouTube page. Just search Central Indiana Sports Report. We are very easy to find. Also, we previewed all of Saturday's boys basketball regionals in the last couple of days and released Michelle Garman's conversation with Tipton head coach Cliff Hawkins early Saturday morning. They are easy to find. Again, just search Central Indiana Sports Report on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or SoundCloud. It was a busy Friday. It's an even busier Saturday, so buckle in. Here's Susie.
We start in the NBA with the Indiana Pacers. It wasn't a pretty performance, but the Pacers left Philadelphia with a 112-100 win over the 76ers. It's the second straight win for Indiana heading into Saturday's huge game at Milwaukee. The Pacers trailed 26-18 at the end of the first quarter and 51-47 at halftime. Then they took control in the third quarter and pulled away in the fourth. Pascal Siakam had another huge game for the Pacers with 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a couple of block shots. 5 Pacers scored in double figures. Miles Turner had 18, Aaron Nesmith 16, Tyrese Halliburton 14, and Obi Toppin 11 off the bench. Turner had 7 rebounds and Halliburton 10 assists. Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle loved the second half energy and performance.
The second half was how we needed to play. A lot more force, a lot more presence. Our starters carried the action in the second half. Pascal was a major key to the game, obviously. His chase down block after the turnover. It was a 5-point game in the third quarter, was a huge play, and that energized our team. No NBA game is easy.
On Saturday evening, the Pacers play for a playoff position against the Bucks, who they beat dramatically just a few days ago. Indiana and Milwaukee are tied for fourth in the Eastern Conference, heading into the showdown. Purdue was eliminated from the Big Ten tournament Friday with an 86-68 loss to Michigan. The tournament at the Fieldhouse in Indy continues Saturday with the semifinals at 1 and 3:30. First, it's number 7 Michigan State against number 18 Wisconsin, then number 11 Maryland against number 22 Michigan. Michigan State held off Oregon 76-64. Maryland looked incredible in an 88-65 win over Illinois. Wasn't that your pick to win it, Greg?
It was, but Grant picked Purdue, so we both were wrong.
And Wisconsin cruised past UCLA 86-70. Michigan shot 52% and had 25 assists on 25 assists. Michigan shot 52% and had 25 assists on 30 baskets and ended Purdue's Big Ten run. The Purdue duo of Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith had 36 points combined. The rest of the starters scored 9. Chakari Harris had 11 points and Miles Colvin 9 off the Boilermakers bench. And some other games of note: Duke beat North Carolina 74-71 in the ACC. Number 2 Houston impressive in a 74-54 win over BYU. Number 3 Auburn held off Ole Miss 62-57, and number 5 Alabama crushed Kentucky 99-70 in the SEC. Saturday's conference championships, with automatic NCAA berths on the line, are South Carolina State and Norfolk State for the MEAC, Houston and Arizona in the Big 12 final at 6 p.m. on ESPN, former Indiana Wesleyan and Lafayette Jeff Star Javon Buchanan and the Boise State Broncos against Colorado State at 6 on CBS. Both teams are 24-9. Creighton against Rick Pitino and the number 6 St. John's Red Storm for the Big East at 6:30 on Fox. 27-6 Akron against 25-8 Miami for the MAC at 7:40 on ESPN. Don't think those teams like each other. Number 13 Louisville against number 1 Duke in the ACC Championship in Charlotte at 8:30 on ESPN. Liberty against Jacksonville State for the Conference USA title at 8:30 on CBS Sportsnet. The SWAC will be decided between Alabama State and Jackson State at 9:30 on ESPNU. UC Irvine, the Anteaters, will face UC San Diego, the Tritons, for the Big West at 9:30 on ESPN2. And finally, Grand Canyon. Yes, GCU from the commercials. The online school has an actual campus against Utah Valley at 11:30 on ESPN2.
And Grant Schaus will watch every single one of them.
Ball State women are currently playing Toledo for the MAC championship and a spot in the NCAA tournament as we read this. We'll have the final result by the end of the daily report. Indiana Wesleyan men advanced to the NAIA National Tournament Regional with a 96-77 win over Madonna. That doesn't seem quite fair. One person against a whole team.
Doesn't seem fair, does it?
Now, here is the Action Sports Network, Kevin Helfrich, with a full report.
All right, you said
We went.
all right. This is recording. I don't know. I'm going to use that, what you just said.
Okay.
There, so.
Right, sure.
All right, and not as dramatic for the women.
No, not really. The first 8 minutes, Indiana Wesleyan did really struggle out of the gates. The game was tied at 9 apiece, but the Wildcats eventually took control. The final 12 minutes of the first half, which would be they played quarters in women's basketball. So the second quarter was the difference. Indiana Wesleyan outscored Philanther Smith 40-14 over the rest of the half after the game was tied at 9, and really just never looked back in this one. And no surprise, they were led by Lily Frazier and Taylor Folkema. They were both outstanding offensively, slashing to the basket, getting their shots rather easily. Frazier with a team high 24 points. She had 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Folkema added 23 points, and she pulled down 8 rebounds. And there was no other Wildcat player in double figures, so it was kind of that 1-2 punch to carry the day for the Indiana Wesleyan women, who advanced to tomorrow's game. Looks like they're going to play Grandview, who has a 40-25 lead late in the second quarter against Olivet Nazarene. So I anticipate those two teams will be the matchup we see tomorrow afternoon.
And we will have Kevin back on to give us a recap of all of Saturday's action at Lucky Arena, and we will have results for you on Sunday's Daily Report. Thanks so much, Kevin. Always appreciate your time.
Yeah, and on the other women's side, there were a couple other winners today. Marion with a 73-63 victory over St. Xavier of Illinois, and then also Huntington currently leads, I should say, in the second quarter by 11 points over LSU Shreveport. However, 2 teams did fall. St. Francis shocked on their home floor by Indiana Tech, 64-60.
Wow.
And Spring Arbor falls in a close one against Briarcliff, 61-59. So the women's side not faring as well as the men's side on this opening day. And we'll see if Huntington can pull it out and make that a 3-2 record for the Crossroads women's today.
Yeah, and really good year for the Crossroads men. That was a really deep league, six really good teams.
It really was a great season by the Crossroads League of Men, and they're going to have 6 likely of the 32 teams left in this tournament, so a good chance for some teams to advance to that round of 16 next week.
The Wildcat men will face Life, as in Life, Georgia, in Saturday's regional championship at 3 at Lucky Arena. The Wildcat women won much more comfortably than the men did. As expected, they blew through Philanthropy Smith 85-51 to advance to Saturday's championship against Grandview, Iowa at 5 on Saturday.
The first 8 minutes, Indiana Wesleyan did really struggle out of the gates. The game was tied at 9 apiece, but the Wildcats eventually took control. The final 12 minutes of the first half, which would be they played quarters in women's basketball. So the second quarter was the difference. Indiana Wesleyan outscored Philanthropy Smith 40-14 over the rest of the half after the game was tied at 9, and really just never looked back in this one. And no surprise, they were led by Lily Frazier and Taylor Fulkema. They were both outstanding offensively, slashing to the basket, getting their shots rather easily. Frazier with a team high 24 points. She had 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Fulkema added 23 points, and she pulled down 8 rebounds. And there was no other Wildcat player in double figures, so it was kind of that 1-2 punch to carry the day for the Indiana Wesleyan women who advanced to tomorrow's game.
And in college softball, Indiana Wesleyan swept rival Taylor in a big early Crossroads doubleheader in Upland. In Game 1, the Wildcats played small ball to score 6 times in the top of the third. Briley Bilger hit a home run and knocked in 3 runs, as did Ella Phillips. The Wildcats are 11-2 overall and 3-0 in the Crossroads. Taylor is 11-4 after suffering their first conference loss. Purdue lost 6-0 at UCLA in its Big Ten opener. The Boilermakers and Bruins play again Saturday at 8 p.m. Ball State split a doubleheader at Akron. The Cardinals won 6-1 in the first game before a 12-4 loss in the nightcap. Michaela Timmons hit a pair of home runs in the win. Anderson suffered a tough 10-9 loss to Greenville, then beat host John Carroll 8-2 and split a doubleheader in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Maddie Schoenrat had 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 5 runs, 3 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases for the 3-3 Ravens. IU baseball swept a doubleheader against visiting Ohio State on Friday. The Hoosiers took Game 1 12-2 in 8 innings and Game 2 8-7 in 10 innings. Corbin Dickerson was 3 for 5 with a triple, a home run in Game 1. In the second game, freshman Hogan Denny drove in freshman Cooper Malamazian to win it in the 10th. Purdue baseball is 16-2. Let me repeat that. Purdue baseball is 16-2 after Friday's 7-1 win over UIC. Brandon Anderson drove in 4 runs, including a 3-run home run in the first. The Boilermakers and Flames play again Saturday at 1 and 4:30. Ball State is 4-0 in the MAC after beating Toledo 12-2 Friday at Shebeck Stadium. The Cardinals scored 6 times in the 5th and 6 more in the 6th and finished with 15 hits. Corbin Griffin had 3 of them. He and Blake Beavis homered in the win. Taylor is 19-4 after beating Spring Arbor 22-2 and 13-2 Friday. Luke Sutter was 4 for 4 with a double, a home run, 4 RBIs, and 3 runs in Game 1. And Mason David went 2 for 5 with a home run and scored twice and drove in 2 in Game 2. Indiana Wesleyan split a doubleheader at St. Francis. The Wildcats lost Game 1 19-3 and won Game 2 16-8. Trevor Votkovsk, Ty Matthews, and Darian Pugh all homered in the win. IUK lost a pair to Oakland City 11-8 and 11-7. Peyton Hankins drove in 5 runs on the day for the Cougars. Ball State men's volleyball fell to 0-2 in the Outrigger tournament in Honolulu. Of course, the consolation prize being that they're in Honolulu. Tenishay Davosakova had led with the 13-8 Cardinals with 8 kills in the 25-22, 25-17, 25-19 loss to the 15-2 USC. Ball State's Janelle Rogers is the 7th in the pentathlon Friday at the NCAA Indoor Championships at Virginia Beach. Jalen Elrod of Purdue is 8th after Friday's competition. We'll have full results from our local athletics following Saturday's finals in Virginia Beach on Sunday's Daily Report. And now some Saturday news for March 15th. Beware the Ides of March. The boys basketball regionals are about to get underway at Lapel, the Berry Bowl at Logansport, Wiener Arena at Frankfurt, the famed Chrysler Arena in Newcastle, Greenfield, Lebanon, Southport, North Judson, Seymour, Martinsville, Triton, Southridge, Washington, Michigan City, South Bend, Washington, Lagooty. I hope you got all those.
Lagooty?
Lagooty. I say Lagooty.
I say Lagute.
Lagute. We'll have our eyes particularly on Tipton, Manchester, and Wapahani, Western Boone in 2A, Delta Blackhawk and Marion Mconaquah in 3A, Liberty Christian and Daleville in Class A, and a handful of regional games of interest. Number 3 New Pal against number 5 Guerin in 3A.
It's going to be a great one.
Fishers Harrison and Mount Vernon Brownsburg in 4A, and Clinton Prairie, Lafayette Central Catholic in Class A. We've previews all week. Go check those out. And of course, we'll have results on Saturday's Daily Report, plus a full scoreboard show sometime on Sunday. The gymnastics state finals are underway at Ball State. Crown Point is defending champion. Northwestern will compete in the state finals as a team for the first time in program history, and senior Taylor Schmidt is a contender in the all-around and several apparatuses. Apparatuses.
Is it plural?
You choose the ending you want. IU softball starts a series at home against Iowa Saturday. It's the Hoosiers' Big Ten opener.
And as promised, Ball State's women are headed to the NCAA tournament. They beat Toledo 65-58 with a big second half. We'll have details on Sunday's Daily Show, and we'll be talking Ball State women and IU's and Notre Dame's and the tournaments in general, both men and women, all next week and the following 2 weeks and probably a little even after that. So.
And now you know everything we know about Central Indiana sports.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you are interested in seeing us continue to grow and thrive, please share the Central Indiana Sports Report with your friends and family. And we thank you as always.
Beware the Ides of March.
The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie. And Shakespeare, by the way. Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar is amazing.
Go read it.
Beware, and but
But
whatever you do, beware.